Hi, welcome to Her Legacy Garden. Today we are going to be making pulled pork loin or shredded pork, however you call it. We're going to start out, go ahead and get your ingredients together. For today I'm using a 3-pound pork loin. We're going to add to that 3 tablespoons Himalayan salt, 2 tablespoons Harlem seasoning, a Crockpot liner, 1/2 cup apple cider vinegar, 1/2 cup water, 2 tablespoons cayenne pepper, 4 teaspoons ground cumin, and 2 onions of your choice. I'm using sweet onions today. Now I like using a Crockpot liner. It makes cleanup so easy, and you can even store your food in there afterwards. And here I'm placing the pork loin into the crock pot, and then we're going to go ahead and pour the water into the crock pot. And as we're adding the ingredients for the seasonings, we're only going to add half because we're going to sprinkle half of each one of these on top of the pork loin. Make sure you wash your hands after you've touched the pork. That's what I did there. That's what's taken a little bit of time, making sure to get everything cleaned up. We don't want to spread the juices from the meat, as that's very unsanitary. And go ahead and add your 1/2 cup of water. Just pour it right over the top. And then go ahead and add your apple cider vinegar. I'm using raw apple cider vinegar with the mother, which is what you see in there. I'm just pouring that right on top. And then again, for each one of these spices, we're just going to evenly sprinkle about half of each one right on the top here. And then we'll come back and do the other half on the other side of the pork loin after we're done. And there's the Harlem seasoning. If you don't have Harlem seasoning, it's made by Badia. You can get it in most grocery stores. It's a mix of onion powder, garlic powder, black pepper, and parsley. And there's some cumin. Let's go ahead and sprinkle half of that cumin right over the top of that pork loin. And then we've got our Himalayan salt. Now, 3 tablespoons may seem like a lot. I use about 1 tablespoon per pound of pork loin. Comes out absolutely perfect. So don't be afraid to use a little bit more salt. If you use regular table salt, you might want to use a little bit less. And then just push those spices right into the top. That way, whenever we roll the pork loin over, we don't lose all of those spices. So just kind of just press them in a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just so that it doesn't fall off whenever we go to turn it over like that. And then go ahead and wash your hands again since you've just touched meat. You can use gloves also. But go ahead and wash your hands before you touch anything else, because again, we don't want to spread those raw meat juices, especially with pork. So give your hands a good hand washing. Dry them off. And now we can go ahead with the other half of our spices. And again, we're just going to evenly sprinkle these right over the top of the pork loin. And there's the rest of the cayenne pepper. And that looks like the Harlem seasoning we're adding now. Really great stuff. If you haven't discovered it yet, I highly recommend it. You can also mix your own. And some ground cumin. Himalayan salt. Let's go ahead and sprinkle that in there. Fantastic. And there you can see we've got all of the spices sprinkled over the top. Nice and even. And go ahead and put your lid on. I've got this set at low. I put it on low for about the first hour. There you go. Put the lid on. And we'll check back in about an hour. I'd like to set my handy dandy little egg timer with a little chicken that pops up when it goes off. This thing is old as Methuselah. We'll go ahead and set that to an hour. And we'll come back in an hour and see how everything is looking. All right, it's been about an hour. So let's take a look. Oh, it's coming along nice. And we're going to go ahead and set our timer again for another hour. And we'll come back at hour 2. Let's take a look at it now, see how it looks after 2 hours. Oh, it looks so good. The whole house smells delicious. And we'll come back in another hour. And thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to hit subscribe. We do lots of recipes here. All right, and here is hour number 3. Let's take a look and see how this is doing. Oh, look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Smells so good. I did turn it up to high for that last hour. I'm turning it back down to low now because it's almost done. But I do like it to get cooked all the way through. And here is hour 4. We're going to go ahead and check the temperature. And this is over 200 degrees, so we know that it's done, but it's always good to check your temperatures. That way you can make sure that your meat is thoroughly cooked. Again, this is very important whenever it comes to pork especially. And I like to let the thermometer sit in there for a little while so I make sure that I have a very accurate temperature reading. I wait until that needle stops moving. And then I'm going to move it to another part of the pork loin just so I can get 2 good temperature readings from it. Make sure that it is thoroughly cooked all the way through. And everything looks good. So I find about 4 hours is usually good for, 3 to 3.5 pound pork. And now we're going to go ahead and you can chop up your onions now. Now I do this at the end. I like my onions to have a little bit of crunch to them. You can put them in earlier if you want. I wouldn't recommend putting them in at the beginning. Onions do tend to get very mushy and they can lose a lot of that good flavor. I like to put it in for about a half hour before I'm done cooking. I also use red onions sometimes. It makes a wonderful flavor. For this grocery store trip, the sweet onions were on a good sale, so I got a bag of those. I like cooking with sweet onions. And they don't have to be finely chopped. I just kind of give them a rough chop and separate the onions from each other. And again, I cook these for about a half hour. I found that's perfect for me. They still have some crunch, and it cooks long enough to let some of that good onion flavor get distributed with the meat. I will just chop these onions up. And get all of these separated. And again, this does not have to be perfect. I do like to get them mostly separated though. And just dump them in there. If I didn't mention already, I've already pulled the pork loin out so that we can get that shredded. So that is sitting on a plate and cooling down just a little bit while I get these onions added to the pot. And then once the pork is shredded, we're going to add that back to the crock pot to let all of those flavors mix in together. Again, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We have new recipes coming out all the time. Simple things that you can make at home. We like to do a lot of one-pot meals. Great for families or anybody that's on the go. I make one-pot meals for myself because it's less cooking throughout the week. All right, and we're just going to mix those onions into all of that really good liquid that is full of flavor. Let those start cooking a little bit. Now for the shredding of the pork, you have a few options of what you can do here. You can do the tried and true method of just taking two forks and putting the forks kind of towards each other and then pulling away. And you can do that over the entire pork loin and it gives it a nice shred. You get thicker shreds whenever you do it that way. You can also use a handheld mixer with one or two beaters on it. It doesn't matter. Start with a low speed though so that it doesn't go flying all over your kitchen. Yes, I learned that one from experience. It can make a mess. You also want to use a high-walled bowl, a nice deep bowl if you're going to use a hand mixer. Or if you have a stand mixer, like I have a KitchenAid, and it makes such fast work of shredding any type of meat. You can do chicken the same way that you're making this. The mixer is absolutely wonderful for shredding chicken, beef, pork, any of them. I'm getting my mixer set up. Excuse me while I get everything moved around here so that you can kind of see what I'm doing. And you can see there that beautiful pork loin just perfectly cooked. And I have to plug the mixer in. I should have done that before. I apologize for that wait. All right. I'm so fortunate to have gotten one of these mixers. They are just really such a wonderful thing. If you ever have the opportunity to get one or put one on a list for your wish list so somebody can get it for you as a gift, I definitely recommend it. And you can see that pork loin is already falling apart just using the tongs on it. Perfectly cooked. And we're just going to put our attachment on there. And then just barely over a low speed. And you can see it'll only take just a few seconds. And then it's done. I like getting mine shredded very well. I find it makes for wonderful toasted sandwiches. And it looks like it's about done. Can go ahead and lift this up. Knock off any that's still on there. This smells absolutely amazing. This is a 5-quart bowl, so you can see that 3-pound pork loin did make a lot of shredded pork. And we'll put this over here and bring back our crock pot. And let's go ahead and add the now shredded pork back to our onion and broth mixture so that all of that can mix in together. And now here you have a few options here. Doesn't This is a very moist. You can see here that there is plenty of liquid with this. This is not a dry pork loin at all. But I do like mine to have a little bit more liquid. So I'm going to add a cup and a half more water and allow this to just cook together for about 30 minutes longer. If you don't want to add any more liquid, you absolutely do not have to. You'll have have a little less liquid with it, but it's not dry by any means. You can also add about a cup of barbecue sauce, your favorite barbecue sauce, or you can mix one up if you prefer to have barbecue pork. This is the perfect time to add that. Maybe cook it for about 45 minutes so that those flavors really have an opportunity to mix together if you decide to go with the barbecue. The seasonings that we used in this blends perfect with barbecue sauce. So you don't have to make any adjustments to seasonings. I stole a little bite to taste. I've been waiting 4 hours for this, so I want a little bite of it. And that is how to make a shredded or a pulled pork from a pork loin. You can do the same way with a shoulder or a pork butt. I don't recommend tenderloin as that can come out very dry, and unless you got it on a very good sale, it is a waste of good money. You can see here I'm setting the timer for just an additional 30 minutes. Oh, please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you would like to download a copy of this recipe with the instructions, you can visit www.snugglecrumble.com. Thank you so much for visiting, and we'll see you next mealtime. Bye-bye.